Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about that upcoming major winter storm, alright, and it's looking a little bit more major than it did as of yesterday, so this has progressed into a stronger looking storm at this point. Now, before I get started with this video, though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. Now, I'd also highly recommend that you check out our very exciting Patreon page and then also our very exciting channel membership. The Patreon page can be found in the pinned comment down below, and then also our membership can be found if you click that join button next to the subscribe button. So you can click that and you can check it out today. Now, for today's comment of the day, I want to know, what do you think is the maximum amount of snowfall anyone sees from this system? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now, let's get straight into things. First things first, we're taking a look at those warnings, watches, and advisories. And if you take a look here, you can see we have plenty of those around. First off, in kind of those purplish shades, that's where we have winter weather advisories there. Within those pinks, that's where we have winter storm warnings. So that's where the worst of the snowy conditions are expected. And then we have winter storm watches there in kind of those bluish shades. So I see some of those for some of the southeastern Pennsylvania counties, and then also a lot of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts there as well. All right, now let's move on and take a look at some modeled guidance. Remember those two pieces of energy I talked about yesterday? You can see that there's two main areas of energy there. Let's just take this and move it on a little bit further towards about the morning hours of Sunday. You can see those fully come together, and it's looking a lot more intense here than it did as of yesterday. Plenty of snowfall going on for Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, and some of the surrounding states as well. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on where this is going to begin to move up the coast and bring heavy snowfall from basically central Virginia up through DC, up through Philadelphia, up through New York City, and even into Boston and Maine now. All of that is coming up in just a moment. Now, this is at about 11 a.m. or so there on Sunday, like I said, which is going to be tomorrow from the time I'm making this video. So this is likely my final update for this storm. And as you can see, we have moderate to heavy snowfall going on throughout all of Virginia, Maryland, DC, the Delmarva, New Jersey, Pennsylvania as well. Not all of Virginia, I don't know why I said that, but most of the state at least. Let's just take this a little bit further, and as you can see, this extends up through New York and in through Boston by the time we're taking a look at the afternoon hour of Sunday. And let's move it on even further towards about 7 p.m. And you can see basically from New York to Boston up through coastal Maine as well. Now we're seeing moderate snowfall with a 985 millibar low pressure center offshore. That's a strong nor'easter there, guys, by this point. And I do expect a very heavy snowfall with this system. And then as you can see, by the time we reach about 1 a.m., it's coming to an end. 1 a.m. on Monday, that is. And we can see that Maine is getting snowfall by that point. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on and start talking about some other models. The GFS, the NAM, and some other high-resolution models as well. We're going to take a look at their simulated radar. Eventually, we will get into their total snowfall and also my official snowfall forecast for this system. All of that is coming up in just a moment. All right, now here we are taking a look at the GFS. We're not even going to really talk about the beginning portion of this storm because the more earlier on in the storm we go, the more sure thing it is. It's that later portion that's about 30 hours plus out where there is still some room for this storm to shift around a tiny bit. We do see that this has the same exact thing. Virginia, Maryland, DC, Delmarva, New Jersey, Pennsylvania seeing moderate to heavy snowfall. This does move up to where New Jersey, New York City, Boston starts to see that. But it is a little bit further east than that European model still. As you can see, Maine does not get quite as much snowfall there from that system. Let's take this to our NAM 12KM model, and the interesting thing about this one is it does keep that snowfall further south in the southeast. You can see portions of Georgia there, portions of Alabama as well seeing some snowfall, but this model is kind of standing alone on that. Let's take this to about 1 a.m. on Sunday there, and as you can see, that snowfall extends all the way down to Mississippi, Alabama, most of Tennessee there, portions of North Carolina and Virginia. Same story as yesterday, though. It does have that sleet in the yellows. That is a pretty realistic solution, I would say. By the time we're reaching maybe about 5 a.m. here, this would be the look. Heavy snowfall for many regions throughout Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky. And this does move up into DC, Central Virginia, Maryland, Delmarva, New Jersey eventually as well. And this does follow suit with the rest of the models and have that snowfall reach New York City, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Boston, up through portions of New Hampshire as well. And kind of similar to the GFS, it does have it hitting Maine a little bit, but really it's pretty far offshore there, and it's keeping very limited amounts of snowfall reaching that far north. So the European model seems to be alone on that. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, and we're going to move on towards our very high resolution models, our NAM 3KM, and then our RGEM model. And then we're going to begin to get into total snowfall according to these models and my official snowfall forecast. All of those things are coming up in just a moment. Alright, now here we are taking a look at that NAM 3KM model, and this is actually the highest resolution model we will be taking a look at today. As you can see, by the time we're reaching maybe about, I would say, maybe 9 or 10 p.m. tonight, so Saturday, we're already seeing a little bit of snowfall begin for Georgia, South Carolina, and even in through mountainous regions of North Carolina there, a tiny bit. And this model does have them switching over to kind of freezing rain and sleet. I do think that the highest elevation areas will remain snowfall, though, however. But regardless, we see the surrounding regions seeing moderate to heavy snowfall. And this model is kind of a lot different than the 12KM NAM, which usually they're kind of similar, but this time around this one has a much different solution. This one looks a lot like that European model, actually. It's much further west with that low pressure center. It keeps it very close to the coast, and we're seeing very heavy snowfall for Virginia, DC, Maryland, Delmarva, New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania. This does move up into New England, and it is significantly close to that New England coast, kind of like that European model. And as you can see, as it reaches Maine by about 1 a.m. on Monday there, you can see that it is pretty well into Maine, seeing that snowfall. So this one definitely agrees with that European model. Now, our RGEM model, my favorite model, I've said that so many times on this channel. We're starting out at about maybe 4 a.m. here on Sunday. You can see snowfall is around for North Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. And then by the time we're reaching maybe about, I would say 10 a.m. here on Sunday, February 7th, you can see that Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, Maryland, DC, all seeing snowfall. By the time we reach more of the afternoon hour, I would say maybe 3 or 4 p.m. here, we're seeing DC up through Philadelphia, up through New York City, up through Boston. And this one is kind of a more balanced approach, but it does have that low pressure center actually significantly further west than models like the GFS and some of those other models. And look at how heavy that snowfall is for southeastern Massachusetts and regions of Rhode Island, even Boston getting very heavy snowfall. That is significant there, and it does have that snow reaching pretty far into Maine as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, take a look at that modeled snowfall guidance, and then also my official snowfall forecast. All of those things are coming up in just a moment. All right, now here we are taking a look at that European model first off. We always start with the European model. If you're in the grays, you're taking a look at about a dusting, if anything. Within those blues, about 2 to 6 inches of snow. And then within the purples, about 6 to 10. So we're seeing some of that for Tennessee, some of that for Virginia, up through Maryland, the Delmarva, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, up through Long Island, and then in through regions of New England as well, especially Maine there, on the European model at least. And then those pinks showing up, portions of Rhode Island and Massachusetts seeing some of that. And then also Maine, that's where you're at about 10 to 15 inches of snow. So there is 10 inches plus expected, but I kind of doubt that we will see a foot plus. So that's what we're kind of watching for. Just over 10 inches in the bullseye, I think. Let's move on to that GFS model. And as you can see, much less snowfall for Maine. That southeastern region of Massachusetts does get the 6 inches plus and even the 10 inches plus there for Martha's Vineyard and portions of Cape Cod potentially as well. And then also regions there in the mountainous regions of North Carolina. But overall, the GFS has a much weaker storm. As far as ensemble support, they side with the European model more, because if you take a look here at our European ensemble model, it does keep those 6-inch plus amounts much more abundant than what the GFS model was calling for. And even once we take a look at that GFS ensemble model, I think this one is agreeing more with the European model overall. The lower amounts on those ensemble models is very common, so you don't want to pay attention too much to that, more about the track here at that point. Let's take a look at that NAM 12KM model, and again, this was the furthest south out of any of the models. And for Virginia, Maryland, Delmarva, New Jersey, this one has 6 to 10 and even 10 inches plus in those pinks. So this one is actually the heaviest for those regions. But for New England, this is the least significant out of any of the models here. Let's take a look at that NAM 3KM model, and as you can see, this one is pretty similar. We do see those purples and pinks scattered throughout Virginia, North Carolina, the Delmarva, Maryland, eastern Pennsylvania, even New Jersey, and then pretty widespread throughout New England there as well. Our RGEM model here is pretty much the most major out of any of them, I think. We can see a pretty thin band there of those purples and pinks for Virginia, Maryland, Delmarva, New Jersey. That eventually expands around New England and Long Island, where there is, those 10 to 12 to 15 to even 20-inch amounts here. We're seeing a maximum of 18 on this model, so this one had that very heavy snowfall over those regions, and I expect that's probably why it was calling for that. So overall, the agreement is okay. I would like to feel more confident in what we're saying here, but there is still some pretty major disagreement. Anyway, for our official snowfall forecast, we have a dusting to 3 inches expected within these white regions. Within these lighter blue regions, we're expecting 3 to 6 inches of snow. There is some lake effect snow expected during this time frame as well, so that's why you're seeing the lakes get some of that. And then for our 6 to 10 inch regions, you can see some of that going on for the Smoky Mountains. And then from basically the Appalachian Mountains, let's call it Roanoke and Lynchburg area, all the way through up into DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, and even up through Boston, basically. And I do extend that up the main coast as well. I think those more Western models are going to be correct. Usually when in doubt, side with the European model is the way to go. And then I do think there will be a 10 to 15 inch corridor there, basically for southeastern Massachusetts, and then southern Rhode Island, and maybe even southeastern Connecticut as well. Also, the eastern tip there of Long Island, I do expect that there could be 10 to 15 inches of snow. Anyway, for our confidence tab, we're at a surprisingly low 4 out of 6. You've seen that there is some serious model disagreement on the track, intensity, all sorts of problems going on. My confidence, I would love for it to be about a 6 at this point, considering we're within 24 hours of the beginning of that storm, but it's just not there. This one has some serious potential to either bust or boom, and I do not feel good about this, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I'm at about a 4 out of 6, so I'm hovering right around, I would call it 55% confidence, where it should be probably an 80 plus at this point. So take it with a grain of salt. We're really trying to pin down this forecast. But at this point, the models are not in good agreement, and it's going to be more of a nowcast type storm, which means basically just once it's beginning, we're just going to watch it on radar and see what happens. But at this point, many people are going to get their forecasts wrong because a lot of the models are going to be wrong. They're not agreeing at this point. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, do you think this storm will be major or not? And Gamer Ben 10 said, yes, it will be major. And at this point, that is becoming obvious, really. I mean, 6 to 10 inches of snow expected for North Carolina, the Smoky Mountains is pretty much major for them, and then 10 to 15 obviously for New England is going on major, so this is definitely looking more major than it did yesterday. Anyway, for today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons: Sebastian Tao, John Benbenick, James Wade, Dovi Nagel, Alan Balemo, Adam S., Larry Lepan, Donna Carnes, Cameron Marshall, and Aidan Mattis, alongside our diamond patrons: Bill Roberts, Alan Sherry, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Codalessa, Michael Buell, Terry Curtis, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Kellen Manhart, It's Jay, Cindy Klein, Alicia Davis, Mark J., Luke Falago, Gary's, and John Quilisi. If you would like to be a part of our patron end screen of the day, you can do so by joining our very exciting Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media. I will see you guys in the next video.